Sonian Kurt Allen. It's the week of July 4th, 2021, and we welcome you to the Bub Report. A pleasant good day, good morning, good night, good evening to everyone who are joining us here on the Bub Report or whatever time you are viewing the program. Certainly today in the United States, a country that many of us Caribbean people now call a second adopted home, is celebrating its Independence Day. As the country pauses to reflect on its founding, may it not do so without also acknowledging the role of Haiti in consolidating its foothold as a new country. In October 1779, a force of more than 500 Haitian free blacks joined American colonists and French troops in an unsuccessful push to drive the British from Savannah in coastal Georgia. More than 300 Allied soldiers were gunned down, charging British fortifications, making the siege the second most lopsided British victory in the war after Bunker Hill. Though not well known in the US, Haiti's role in the American Revolution is a point of national pride for Haitians and Haitian Americans alike. After returning home from the war, Haitian veterans soon led their own rebellion that won Haiti's independence from France in 1804. In fact, the Haitian Revolution created this only second independent country in the Americas after the United States declared their own independence in 1783. So that's some fun historical fact here. As the United States acknowledges this day, we also have to acknowledge the role of Haiti in helping the United States declare its own independence. But at this time, I want to welcome my first guest, Mr. Benedict Peters of the National Disaster Management Agency in Grenada. Mr. Peters, certainly last week was a very busy week for you. And NADMA.
Yes, good day. As based on the information we have people viewing different parts of the world.
Yes.
It's a good day. And it was a busy day and week. But matter of fact, the season is considered busy, really. But it was a busy day, and it was challenging to some extent, but it's a learning process.
Now, speaking of learning process, Mr. Peters, some Grenadians in some quarters expressed concern that NADMA did not release advisories in a timely manner. For example, we received messages in our inbox here at the Bub Report, for example, that they felt that schools should have been canceled and that exams should have been put on hold. Certainly, the central government would rely on your advisory to make those calls, correct?
No, not fully correct. The NAC is a body that meets. So it's just that the coordinator of NADMA, and that body will give the suggestions to government, or suggest to government based on the issues that are at hand, and the decision will be made at the cabinet level, really. But the suggestions come from that body, yes.
So they come from that body. So my question is, was there any concern that having school and having regular activity in the lead up to this particular system, obviously it grew quickly into a Category 1 hurricane after the fact, but were there any concerns that that system would create sufficient disturbance that would warrant schools and things like that to be closed?
Generally, the meeting did not come up with that decision to close schools generally. And personally, I don't think schools should have been closed generally. As I have said to persons that I personally will take it on me to maybe apologize for not advising, because I sat in that meeting, the schools in Queen's Park, because it was clearly, we had the knowledge that the rivers are going to flood the banks, and the floodplains will be, and the floodwaters will be covering the floodplains. And the school in the park, that school, in my personal view, and as I said, I did not make a request like that, but I think that school should not have had school on that day.
Well, we're talking about, I mean, in that area, we have what, three schools? We have a preschool. We also have the Wesley College, and we also have what is called the St. George's Methodist School, which is the Park School, yes?
Yeah, so I'm saying that schools in that
In that area, right?
yeah.
Now, Mr. Peters, the other issue we were talking about in researching for this program, we do have shelters that tend to be activated during the hurricane season. This hurricane season, as with last year's hurricane season, would be unique in that we are also in the throes of a major pandemic. Now, if citizens are called to go into shelters, right? I mean, we have a challenge there of trying to maintain things like social distancing and so my question to you is, what measures do you have in place to ensure that you also are sticking with the pandemic protocols?
Well, the pandemic protocols are established. It's, but it should be known to one and all for the time that it's been broadcast and different parties bringing that information. What has happened is that the amount of persons per center has reduced to accommodate that housing persons. So as many persons as before that would have been allowed to a shelter has been reduced.
Okay.
And the protocols and advice and so on distancing will be activities that will take place at the facility to reduce the risk that COVID brings in this context.
Now, flooding is always a major concern, especially in parts of the southern parts of Grenada. What are you doing to ensure that we can mitigate against that? Because it would appear that even though we do not have a full blown storm or hurricane to hit Grenada this year, let's hope it doesn't happen. But these weather systems, based on climate change, are also bringing with it much more intense impacts. And so, how are you also ensuring that, notwithstanding that we may not have a major hurricane or storm, that we are mitigating against these particular flood impacts in these flood-prone areas?
All right, you have used a number of words there. You have coping mechanisms. You have mitigating. The situation that exists right now, it's how do you cope with the situation that as is, and that comes with understanding, first of all, what a message said to you when you get information. What should you do with that information that you receive? And as you indicated, the knowledge is there that the areas are flooding. So the mitigation measures could be taken, for example, for the persons that are involved in that area or who will traverse that area or plan to use that area. What actions can be taken so that they reduce the risk of being severely impacted by the flood? There's a number of areas. I believe that people who use the area and who lives in the area has the best understanding of what happens in the area. So I am not going to say that I know how flooding is in all the areas that are flooded or will flood. But I would like to believe that people who live there and use the facilities there will understand that there is flooding. So what we have to do is to give the advice as to how could you reduce your risk of it flooding. And in the future, because at presently there is no activity that will take place to prevent the flooding at this stage. So we have to develop coping mechanisms to reduce the risk and damages in that case. And
Okay.
that from closing to putting sandbags, there's a number of activities that could be used as coping mechanism in the circumstances as is.
Okay, yes, Mr. Peters, before I go to closing comments from you, I have some questions because I want you to get back to your Sunday chores. And thank you again for, I know Sunday is a difficult time for many. It is a time when people have to get caught up on the week ahead. So I thank you for your indulgence today. But we have some comments from some of our audience members. Alice Charles saying it wasn't just schools along flood prone areas that were affected. Routes to and from schools island wide should have been a consideration. So we have that there comment as well. Again, you can respond, of course, once I get through all of them. Timmons and Mr. Peters, I respectfully disagree with your view that of the NEAC in that there was no need to close schools last Friday. Based on the knowledge we have of how easy it is for flooding to occur when little rain falls, it was expected that a system of the size of Elsa, which was forecasted to bring a lot of rain, should have been foremost in the minds of NADMA and all our relevant bodies to close schools. Also, the same commentary saying also it is okay. I think okay. We're not going to touch on that. That's that we're going into conjecture here. But Mr. Peters, I just want you to respond, if you will, to some of those comments that were coming in.
All right. If there's flooding, we agree there's flooding. But
yes,
people, we have to be able to deal with challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people hear the comment, I have heard a lot of comment, you should close schools, you should close work, and so on. There are routes that are safe to get to the schools. As I indicated to you, the school at Queen's Park, there should be no schools in that area. But the other schools, there are routes that could take you safe without being flooded, one. And two, when the flooding started, schools were already in. The rate at which the system was traveling, we know the width of Grenada. We know how much miles it was traveling per hour. By the time the schools are over, there was no flooding in the areas of concern. So the fact remains that the system would have come and passed. So prior to the system creating flooding, school would have been in place. And after school is over, there was no flooding, that the issues that they are raising there. And I'm saying that the schools in Grenada, in most cases, are our shelters. So if you're going to question that the schools are not safe to pass the rainfall, then those are hurricane shelters. So the system would have come in when school, the flooding would have come in when school already in session, and the flooding was not there when school was out of session. So there are routes that, as I indicated, that shouldn't, I said the floodplain, and especially when you have a flood from a river, is a different flood that you have a flood from a drain, or you have a flood from heavy rains that come down that cannot run off as fast as it's coming in. That's a different kind of flood to having a river flooding. So a river flooding is a no-no. As I mentioned that I didn't call the schools or call specific, but I said the school in Queen's Park should not, that's a no-no. Mm-hmm. But we also indicated that persons who do activities on the riverside, like the farmers who use the irrigation, those who tether animals in floodplains, those action should be taken to reduce the risk of those activities. So if we're going to say that the river is going to overflow its bank, and we did not say that you that have a liquor shop on the river bank will get flooded, then okay, that might be true. But if we're going to tell you the river is going to overflow your bank, and you know that you're on the river bank, and we said that the river is going to overflow its bank, then that information that you have could guide the decisions that you take. So the issue about schools should close, going back to the issue about school should close. There wasn't flooding before school started, and there wasn't flooding after school
over. It was sort of a flash flood situation is what you're describing here. But at the same time, I mean, we're talking about the river road situation, but we'll move on. And what I want to give you a chance now is to give us some closing comments and so that you can get back to your Sunday.
Yeah, as I said, we hope that persons at the community level who understands the risk and the issues that in not only a hurricane, but the hazards that we are prone to, could get involved and bring those issues forward, that we could have them addressed at the highest level. Mm-hmm. It is a mechanism that is designed The structure, the mechanism is designed to get the information from the village right on to cabinet. And we like to see persons who of who have the feel and I will use Luke 6:34 as who have that kind of mindset and so on to get involved and help so that we could build our communities, get information out. I should also say I have no problems with the comments and that are coming in. I think I accept all.
They are constructive comments. Yes.
In going forward, with an understanding of where people are, and because if you don't understand where people are, then meeting them to help them is a different situation. We have those who will blast you off, and that's part of the whole process. So the comments need to come because you get a feel as to where people are. You get a feel as to how people are thinking, and it will help guide. But my call today is for us to help ourselves by getting the issues that makes us vulnerable and the suggestions and actions that could build our resilience. And
I want to get to this comment here. Kitaka Mawuto is saying, I think NADMA needs to have a disaster risk brigade that assesses Grenada's rivers, mountains, etc. prior to the start of the rainy season. We need to know how blocked are the drains and rivers and unblock them before the rainy season. We need to be more proactive in mitigating risk and saving lives. That might not be in your bailiwick because you deal specifically with disaster, but that might be a question for the Minister of Infrastructure, for example, maybe. Mr. Peters, would you say?
Well, you see, that's what I'm saying. The comment is a very good comment.
Yes.
And the NIAC that was spoken about will have that ministry that you speak of. And that is actions that you will take in preparation and will also mitigation. It's part of the disaster process. The thing about it is that everybody wants the authority or the government to do it. But the logs that block the river is an activity of someone who decided to cut, or most of it are activities created by some person who decided to cut a bamboo stool and throw it in the river, cut a tree and leave the logs in the river. And if we could reach these people to understand their actions and the consequences of the action, how it affects all of us, then that will also help. And that's why I'm saying that at the community level, people have to understand what information means to them, or what is asking of them. So I'm saying that, good point, as I said, if we remove it, then it doesn't create the blockage that it does. But I'm saying that if we don't put it there, it doesn't create the blockage that it does.
Okay. Mr. Peters, thank you so much for appearing on the Bub Report today. We will certainly play our role here in disseminating whatever information NADMA may need. Certainly, people in the Grenadian expat community in North America and Europe, I know, are also playing their role in supporting the activities of NADMA. God forbid if we have another kind of Ivan situation. Again, we can't be too complacent with natural disasters and storms. So, Mr. Peters, again, thank you for appearing on our program today.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of your program and the rest of the
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Peters. Thank you again. That was Mr. Benedict Peters of the National Disaster Management Agency. We will be right back with Susan Maines for our next segment. Do stand by.
National Library, I know the last update I got is that there was already allocated certain funds that were given by a friendly donor. It was not all of the funds, and that we were in the process of trying to get more of those funds for the National Library.
That we have planned to move on with, the Sheila Buckmeyer Memorial Library. This is to be completed. It is funded, a portion of it is funded by the Constantinian Order. The entire library is estimated to take some 3 million EC dollars, Mr. Speaker. If we must continue the library on the ground floor as a traditional library with equipment, modern electronic equipment, and the conference room meeting, additional library services, etc., Mr. Speaker. We hope to continue to find grants for in order to make it a reality. But of course, part of it is already earmarked with funds from the Constantinian Order, Mr. Speaker.
Especially for Grenada, the library is a very important aspect, especially for educating the population, not just children, but for anybody of any age.
Information, fostering and development of minds, and also for recording national events. Or let's give an example of the revolution. You don't want to have different stories or different sides. You want to have basically one documented story or one documented thing what happened toward the revolution.
Welcome back, folks, and I have the pleasure of welcoming a returning guest here. Shall we call her a returning champion, if you will? Susan Maines, who is one of the exhibitors that's exhibiting Grenada at the Biennale in Italy. But Susan, we're bringing you back here to really talk about an issue that is a perennial issue for Grenada, and that is the state of the public library. I mean, it's in a state really because first of all, it's been closed for 10 years, but also we do have valuable archival information in that library. And again, I do not know the extent to which the Ministry of Culture is actually preserving or making an attempt to preserve the important material we have there. So I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the fact that it's just laying in waste. And so we wanted to bring you back here to really talk about, and based on the montage that I just played, this has been, there's been promises to address the library. And I know that is something you're concerned about.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me back on this Sunday morning at such short notice. I just contacted you early in the weekend, and you said,
Correct.
Of course, yes. So this is a follow-up. As we spoke the first time I was on your program about the Grenada Pavilion at the Venice Biennale, and Brian Bullen is the architect, which features a video of the making of the Grenada House of Parliament. But it also features Brian's vision for what could happen in a revitalization of the Carnage. And of course, we've been promoting that. That has gone out to newspapers, television shows, international press has picked up that story about Grenada's participation in Venice. We've already had thousands of people who have passed through that pavilion. But the most interesting thing to me was this. When we posted the story on social media from Grenada, our Twitter account, and we showed the picture of his vision of what the Carnage could look like as a public space, and reclaiming that seawall and then strengthening it and redoing some of those historic buildings. One of those tweets got almost 10,000 views and hundreds of forwards on tweet. And the comment that was most reported was, please do the library first. And you know, that really touched me. That said to me, most of those remarks came from Grenadians, both in Grenada and abroad in the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
So it said to me, this is something that our people are concerned about. As you said, I appreciated you putting that montage on of all the promises that have been made about the library. One of the other remarks was, oh, this is a pipe dream, it'll never happen. And, you know, a pipe dream starts with one step, one move, one person starting to roll that boulder up the mountain. And so this is what we are doing. That pavilion in Venice is getting attention from around the world. We are going to add to it. We are going to add the people's voices. It's a beautiful display. It's a video, and it's beautifully rendered drawings by Brian. We're going to add to it. We're going to add to it the voices of the people. So this is what we're asking for. We're asking for people to send us a little paragraph, a written memory of their experience with the library. You know, our children who are now going into secondary school have never had the privilege of visiting that library. It's been closed for 10 years. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't have the memories that we do. And so I am asking people, you know, I had sent pictures, old pictures, pictures of drawings, pictures of paintings. We've gotten a lot of pictures in. A lot of people have sent in pictures. That's much appreciated. But we want your memories. Doesn't have to be a book, doesn't have to be an essay. Just write a few lines. We'll edit it if it needs to be edited, that you remember. I mean, even in speaking to you, Kellen, you said you used to go there every day and wait for your parents to be finished with work.
Correct. You know, my grandmother was a working woman at the Grenada post office, you know, and she was an office attendant there. And they didn't want me to go home. And so the library was that place where even when I was preparing for CXC, it was a valuable place. Even there was a Grenada Resource Center on the opposite side of the street as well. Because, you know, once school got out at 2:30, that's where you went, right? And it's where, you know, you formed friendships, is where you really, it was an extension of your learning. So I think it's an important, it's important to have a public library in any society. As Timon is saying, a country that does not document and preserve its history can never develop holistically. So
and aside from that, not only from our young people's point of view, that, you know, we need to preserve this for our children and our grandchildren. Our archives are there sitting, getting wet, mildewing, having, you know, bookworms eat through them. Our history is there. It needs to be protected. It needs to be moved out so the building can be renovated. And, you know, we don't have to have all the money. Government doesn't have to have all the money that's needed to start. It can start. It can start in stages. It can be one step. And, you know, in a democracy such as we have, the voice of the people can be the strongest motivator. So we are asking people to lend their voice to this. We're going to put it up in the pavilion in Venice. We're going to put it on our webpage, which is grenadavenice.org. You can look it up. You can see the pavilion in Venice. And we want you to send an email just expressing yourself to grenadavenice@gmail.com. The story is in Now Grenada. You can look up the story and see the written place where to send your email. But I hope Grenadians will get on board. I would love to see Grenadians living in Brooklyn, living in London, living in Toronto. We had one from Toronto already that was so special. I had to tell a lady I won't put her name on it because it's a little salacious, but it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And, you know, we want the voices of the people to be expressed in their concern for getting that building back on track. It may not be what it was before on the inside. It may be a center for innovation and learning. It may not be just the books. It may be computers and resources and smart techies there who can help people find information. But nonetheless, it is such a historic treasure. And we, some people say, oh, those are old colonial buildings, just knock them down and start over. Those were built by the enslaved. The point is, they were built by the talented, gifted hands of the ancestors. And their spirits reside there and empower us today to be resilient and to survive and to go forward. So even if for no other reason than to honor the ancestors, write that memory that you have and send it in, and we will post it.
Yeah, and I also think it has to be noted that there was a previous petition as well. I don't know what the status is of that petition. Several petitions, as you're saying, right?
Yes.
It was not only one petition there, looking to really advocate for the reopening of that facility, or again, restoring it, or at least preserving the archives there. So that we have that. Anything else you want to add, Susan, before we get to the next segment?
That our deadline for material coming in is July 15th, because we need
July
to get
15th.
it. We want to have it printed and up in the pavilion by the end of July. So send, don't put it off till next week. Do it today. It's Sunday, Sunday afternoon, evening. Write your memory out today. Send it to us, and we will.
Remind us again, what is that email address?
The email address is Grenada Venice, one word, small letters, grenadavenice@gmail.com.
grenadavenice@gmail.com. All right, I'm going to add that in.
And I'm going to be looking for yours, Kellan. I'm going to be looking for your memory so that I can include it.
Absolutely. I mean, there might be some salacious memories there too. So
that's okay. No problem. I have my own salacious memories of the library.
All right. But valuable memories nonetheless. Mikhail Richards is saying all it takes is the political will by any government to revitalize the library. We find monies/resources for almost anything we choose. Parentheses, even during the pandemic. How is it that the library is closed for 10 years? Okay, so that was
agree 100%.
All right. Okay, so folks, again, we will take another quick break and get to my colleague Callistra before we get to our segment, our panel segment of the day. Again, Susan, thank you again, and we look forward to continuing to work
we're going to be back again. Look for us at the end of July. Brian Bullen has a young architect from Harvard University doing an internship here in Grenada, and they're looking at the carnage again and the traffic patterns. So we're going to be back again to talk about the carnage.
All right, sounds well. All right, folks, thank you again, Susan Maines, and we'll be right back.
So it's not a legal schooling. I know you're sensitive to people schooling you on the law, but I think I can trump you when it comes to the history of Grenada.
What you're saying is that this resignation was expected? Would it be fair to say that you abdicated your responsibility by not showing up in Parliament on Friday?
We are not aware of the terms of the agreement.
But then how can you say the terms are not favorable? You don't know terms.
We love old talk, we love gossip, we love brango, we love all them kind of things in the Caribbean.
If I cannot play music, I don't know how I'm going to live.
We are borrowing money to pay debt because of corruption, waste, and mismanagement.
That they have difficulty with your leadership. Why then are you contesting the presidency? Welcome back, folks, and I'm happy to be joined by Callistra Faria. Callistra, a pleasant good morning to you. It's still morning. And thank you for appearing on the Bub Report. But Callistra, we want to get straight to it because I know that you have motherhood responsibilities in addition to your journalistic obligations on your new program, The Narrative, with the Carib Update News Service. But Callistra, I want to begin. Last week, the Prime Minister of Grenada sent a letter to the Grenada Broadcasting Network demanding a retraction and an apology based on a story that the network reported with respect to some land ownership issues in his constituency. I want you to react to that, Callistra.
Good morning, Kellon, and good morning to your viewers. Thanks for having me on again.
Yes.
On my program, The Narrative, this past week, I addressed the issue in a commentary. And what my point in that commentary was that this idea of the lawsuit and making it about the Prime Minister was simply moving away from what the real issue behind that story is, which is the circumstances that people face, the circumstances that forces a woman to not have access to land and desperate to make money would go ahead and build a little shop to make money. It's about people's circumstances, and Prime Minister, as he always does, makes it all about him and all about this imaginary good name that that ship has sailed so long that I'm not really sure why he's still actually threatening to sue somebody over good name. But I am not sure whether or not GBN investigated this matter and verified the woman's claims, but they carried her comments, yes. But I feel that the Prime Minister is making a mountain out of a molehill. He talked about that it's politicians don't give people land and acted as if that is unheard of. It may be against the rules, but it's a practice. There are many people who have been told you can go there and do this and you can go there and do that. There was this big scandal that erupted involving a sex crime, and the basis of it was a woman going to the Prime Minister and asking for a spot of land, crown land, and being referred to someone on his team to manage it, and of course the other issues developed out of that. But no one seems to be saying, well, there was this very widely publicized incident involving someone who went to him to ask for land. So complaining that his name is being tarnished because someone claims that he said it was okay to put a building, a little board shop on the land. The only difference here is that there's a private citizen is claiming ownership of the property. That's the only difference.
But certainly, Callistra, but certainly the Prime Minister, as any private citizen in Grenada, and I believe he is acting in this case as a private citizen, has a right to get recompense if they felt that their reputation was damaged in the press. What would you say to that argument?
Of course, Kellen, absolutely. And as media people, we have a responsibility. Our rights as journalists do not come without responsibility, and a tremendous amount of responsibility, I might add. But the Prime Minister is not a private citizen. Until the next election and the Prime Minister loses his seat and loses.
Well, you don't know that he would lose his seat.
One thing until
I'm
the
being
next
facetious,
election.
but yes.
Okay. He's not a private citizen. He's the Prime Minister of the country, and that is a factor that plays in there too. Secondly, the Prime Minister obviously can defend his name, yes, but still it has not been established that the Prime Minister's name was tarnished. I seem to be getting
It looks like,
call.
yeah, I'm gonna, okay. Go ahead, yes.
My apologies. Yeah, so
Yes.
we do not know if the Prime Minister's name was really tarnished. We do not know if the report was false. What I would advise other journalists to do is to turn their attention to, I know that the media is a bit worried about the idea of a lawsuit and the impact on the particular journalist who did the story. But what we need to find out is, do an investigative piece to find out whether or not this lady interacted with the Prime Minister, and if there's any evidence that points to him telling her it's okay to go there. We don't know if she's telling the truth, and we don't know if he's telling the truth. So I believe GBN's got some, not explaining to do, but some investigating to do to just what's
yes, Callistra, but what has been
but I think, Kellen, let me see what's going on here with my audio.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, let me try my headphones.
Yeah, we're gonna wait for Callistra to, but we want to hear viewers and listeners. We want to hear your comments on this. I mean, I have also not heard from the. I know Callistra is now on the executive of the Media Workers Association. I've not heard from MWAG about how they intend to at least support this young reporter, if if in this battle, if it turns out to be a case where this court action would be warranted. But Callistra, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, yes. So,
Yes, I can.
Callistra, moving forward, what are some other issues that are on your radar, that you're covering now, that you'll be covering them in the next week or in the next month or so, in the next quarter of the year?
I mean, well, there are a few things. I think I'm about to break quite a big one, but of course, in preserving the exclusive, I cannot go into details, but it has to do with the senior public servants, child abuse, the police, and how they handle investigations of that nature, and so on. Here's another case of child abuse, and this one has some elements in it that are almost lifetime movie worthy. So that is one thing I'm working on. And also the vaccination issue.
Yes.
I am also following that, because that conversation is not over. That conversation is just starting. Whether you support vaccination or you don't, whether you believe it's what's going to solve our problems and get us COVID or not, what the Grenada government has done is to throw an entire segment of the population under the bus. We have stopped enforcing public health regulations, mask wearing and hand washing and so. That message is no longer being pushed. The vaccination message is being pushed. But apart from the people who are pushing a conspiracy theory, or just being stubborn about the vaccine, you have those people. But then you have people who, because of their religion or because of their health condition, are unable to take the vaccine. But there's no conversation, no provisions being made for those people, and they're being put at risk by the attitude of the Ministry of Health and the health officials that they're taking. So this is one of the areas that I'm also looking at, how the Grenada government has thrown an entire segment of the population under the bus as they seek to roll out the vaccination. And also the lack of choice, and so elements of that story. People don't have a choice. They have one vaccine, AstraZeneca, and let's face it, the news on AstraZeneca, and it's not coming from the conspiracy theorists, is not 100% confidence building. So the vaccine and the SGU workers, of course, what's going on with them? There have been some developments there, so that's a story I'm also following. They have been locked out. I don't see a resolution. From everything I've heard from all sides, I don't see a resolution there, except for severance. And I think what the workers are doing is waiting it out so that they can be fired, they can be severed, rather than walking off the job. Because if they walk off, obviously they would forfeit certain benefits. The union, I believe, is in a difficult place, because the union that represents the SGU workers, they're pro-vaccination. They've got a bunch of workers who are not. And so it is difficult. They have made national pronouncements pro-vaccination. And so they found themselves in a difficult position of how to represent these workers who are against the stated policy and the stated position of the union. So that's another big issue. And everybody's afraid to take it to the legal and constitutional argument. The lawyers here are trying not to touch, because so many people are afraid of COVID, and so many people want things to be normal again. I think we're even stepping back from legal challenges to the rights issues of to vaccinate or not to vaccinate as well. I was surprised actually that lawyers are actually stepping back from taking this to the constitutional.
Right, and I think it also goes to the bread and butter concerns. I mean, you hear we've attempted to produce certain programs around that involves the law, and some lawyers don't want to touch it because maybe it affects their bottom line, if you will. But Calistro, we want to take this opportunity to thank you for, and of course, before you leave, I want you to tell us more about the narrative. That's what I forgot to mention. Tell us more about this new program, the narrative, on the Carib Update WPG10 network.
Yeah, well, I mean, the narrative is just a news show. It goes beyond that. We try to go deeper, as our tag says. We try to go deeper and further than the regular reporters on the beat to ask the questions that may not be asked here in Grenada, because we have a crisis with that, asking the sensitive questions and the difficult questions. Sometimes people are a bit reluctant to put themselves on the line and to ask questions and report on issues that people do not want reporting, because this is where we shine. This is what we need to do. We need to ask the questions that people don't want us to ask. And so that's why when the Prime Minister tells me don't go there, I knew I was on the right track and I was going to stay on that road and not listen to his don't go there thing, because he didn't want me to ask it. He didn't want to talk about it. So I knew that I was touching a nerve. And so we have this deficiency among members, and I think the media, and I think number of factors causing that. So so the narrative, we're just gonna try to serve the public well and ask questions that people really feel, that people really want answered. Of course, it's on at 6 and 9 p.m. on WPG10 on weekdays at 6 and 9. It's rebroadcast the following the episode. It's also available on YouTube as well.
All right.
Kellen, before I go, let me just say quickly, because I was listening to Susan on the library, and I'm sitting here saying, but didn't I get my first boyfriend in the library? My first term boyfriend. The library, I speak with a senior public servant from time to time on this library situation. I've been gathering information, seeking to write a piece that I feel could touch the politicians, because it's in their hands now. And this problem has gone on long enough. It's shameful. It is disgraceful. We've got this archive, and the archive material is still in that building. It's been in that building for a decade. And listen to how it's managed to survive somewhat. Because a public servant, because she loves the library and had access, and they were actually trying to block her access to the library, goes in there from time to time to air the place and give the archive the love and care that it needs. It's not even like the government has a team assigned to preserve what's in the library while they go around with the begging bowl to get the library sorted out. They have abandoned the library.
Right, but based on the clip we heard from Minister Bowen and the former Member of Parliament for the town of St. George, there is funding earmarked for the facility, and so I think we as journalists we need to probe further, as opposed to just taking these statements as face value. Okay, well, if there is funding for it, then does the funding meet a critical mass to be able to start work on preserving the facility as well?
Yeah, well, the funding has been there for quite a while, but you have a lot of behind the scenes activity taking place. I don't believe that the ultimate desire, the ultimate goal is to keep the library there. I think that area, people are seeing better opportunities than a library for Grenadians there. So there's that as well. What that entire historical district there from Fort George down to the Carnage, and what the government's ulterior motive and ulterior plans are for that area that goes beyond a library for Grenadians. But I believe if they intended to do something about the library, they would have done so. By now, we have found monies to do, as someone said in your comments, so they found money to do a lot of other things. And I don't think the library needs $200 million to save it. And given how important it is in our national story, it's a matter of pride that they need to do something about it, and something quick. And people just need to ask for it. People need to ask for it. People in Grenada are not asking enough for what they need to do. They basically they're leaving the government up to its own devices and saying, oh, I'm going to lose my job if I speak, or my son is going to lose his job, or the friend of my son-in-law is going to lose his job, and all kinds of strange things, you know, and we're not putting sufficient pressure on the government. So, you know, they put their priorities wherever they wish.
And then of course,
you know, Ambassador Newfield could have sought that out for us. We took millions of dollars came from him, and it went into things that had to do with food baskets and campaign bags and so on. If we asked, if we asked, we may have gotten funds. I think he would have been attracted to the idea of helping us to restore our library.
Or maybe we have the transformation fund from the Citizen by Investment Program as well. Certainly, I'm going to be reaching out to the Honorable Peter David, my good friend, to get his response to this as well, in the interest of balance. But Callistra, Susan, yes, correct. Susan Mains is reminding you, Callistra, you are so right. There is an individual who goes to the library who really cares, and she's asking you, Callistra, to please write her your story, okay? Right, because they're collecting these stories about the library. So maybe you can put in the boyfriend piece there as well.
I'll try not to be too salacious, but you know, my love of reading and my love of books was cultivated at the library. I went there almost every day, and we met friends and we chatted and we read books, and all my Mills and Boons. You know, people wonder sometimes, like, you know, I tend to speak well and I know words and stuff, and a lot of it came out of the pages of Mills and Boons, you know, long before I did language and at the tertiary level. And so you know, the public library did have a great impact on my learning, and it makes me sad every time I go by there. Yes.
Yeah. Callistra, thank you. But then we have another comment here from Hazel Bizinski. She's saying the Grenada Community Library was started in 2014 by a group of concerned Grenadians who recognized the need to fill the gap created by the lack of library services in Grenada. Located on Lucas Street, it provides a safe environment, particularly for the many students in the St. George's area. The library depends solely on the support of its partners for literacy to ensure that its doors remain open to serve over 300 members. It plays an important role, but thereafter so many needs. I think her comment got cut off here, but certainly, Hazel, I will get in touch with you in the interim to see how I can support that cause as well. And Wilbur Thomas is saying, I agree, Callistra, they don't want to put that building back there. The whole Carenage revitalization project is to turn that area into an extension of the marina. That was the reason the port was moved initially. The plan was to turn the Carenage into a walking area with cafes, etc., etc., etc. And I know there was a Zublin project as well. So again, that is conjecture. Yeah, that is conjecture. Again, I'm not getting into the.
Well, no, Kellen, it's not really conjecture. I mean, the plans, the plan to move the port and the redevelopment of the entire Carenage area. Those are plans that were drawn up and created. This is part of.
And you are correct. Yes, you are correct. There was a plan to make that area walkable, pedestrian friendly.
On the community library that Mrs. Bizinski talked about, you know, my sons are members of that library because I want my children to appreciate the value of books in their hands. They've got their devices, but I keep saying to them, books in your hands. You know, the Hardy Boys and those kinds of memories are very important. So they joined the library. So Kellen, any support that they can get, you know, for more books and so on from the diaspora that you can, you should really reach out to Mrs. Bizinski and see what can happen.
I definitely will
get our historic building back.
Yes, I definitely will, because one of the things that I do whenever I travel to Cuba, on the occasion that I went to Cuba last year, I donated some books to the Maurice Bishop School for special education there. So Callistra, thank you. We have to get to our panel segment. They are laying in wait, Brother Kurt, and we have Sister Lashington and Brother Eddie from Grenada. So we want to thank them. And of course, I'm going to, for the next break, I'm going to give our viewers and listeners a treat from Kurt Allen. It's concerning vaccinations. Here, we're going to play that calypso and we'll be right back.
Vaccine or not? Vaccine or not? Question. Vaccine or not? We need an answer. Vaccine or not? A global concern, global conversation. Passion time. This pandemic, a fight for survival. The fittest fall into the virus, highly contagious, with all intents and purpose. It is serious about destroying us. The thought of testing positive for COVID is a fear that strike people in the guts. Me a liar and all, asking the same question, whether to take this vaccine or not. Some people don't trust the vaccine, and that don't mean they come out to jackass no scene. When Bill Gates, Pfizer, and the Queen convene, our gene is deemed third-class human beings. That's why they don't trust the vaccine, and that don't mean they jackassing scene. When the world knows the system is rigged, third world nations always their guinea pigs. This is an historical trust factor. Don't classify it as no jackass behavior. Vaccine or not? Question. Vaccine or not? Answer. Vaccine or not? Show me this button now. Vaccine or not? Every man has a right to an opinion, even those that are rooted in ignorance. Your sense of science and or your education don't make you better than a man in his circumstance. Rumors about the late Franklin can make many resolved in their position. Some telling you flat they can't be coerced until all them politicians take it first. Some people don't trust the vaccine, and that don't mean they come out to jackass no scene. The youth found that utterance as obscene, so unclean in a time of pristine hygiene. They don't trust the vaccine, and that don't mean they jackassing scene. When the world knows there is no doubt, for population control they will wipe us out. But once you are a critical thinker, they'll accuse you of jackass behavior. Vaccine or not? Have a question. Vaccine or not? Give me the answer. Vaccine or not? Show me this one. Vaccine or not? With mass vaccination centers setting up throughout the land, the crowds gathering like sardine in can, looking like mass confusion. I'm not one to believe in fake news, conspiracy theories of no kind, but it seems that someone will you catch the virus just by standing up in the vaccine line. Some people don't trust the vaccine, and that don't mean they come out to jackass no scene. For a man who starring on big screen to end up on social media in memes, they don't trust the vaccine, and that don't mean nobody jackassing scene when the world knows.
All right, that is the sound of Kurt Allen, a prolific calypsonian, and again, calypsonians and the calypso art form tends to capture the spirit of our times, and this is the times that we're living in with respect to vaccinations and vaccine hesitancy and the impact of taking vaccines, the side effects, and the debate around the importance of vaccinations, right? And Kurt Allen was able to capture that so succinctly in one of his calypsonians for 2021. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome Brother Allen, and thank you for staying with us, brother, and welcome to the Bub Report once again. You're a bit dark. I don't know if you can shift around there. But let me also take this time to welcome Chrislyn Lashington from Grenada. Yes, and we also have that's Brother Monty Greenwich. Mr. Greenwich, welcome to the Bub Report.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Brother Allen, can you hear me now? Okay, I think his connection is a bit spotty there. But Chrislyn and Eddie, thank you for appearing on the Bub Report certainly this week. But I want to get you guys are culture lovers, and this last week government declared that carnivals Monday and Tuesday would be cancelled. Notwithstanding, they're also encouraging cultural activities this year as well. So I want you to first and foremost react to the decision to cancel Carnival this year again. Who wants to start? Chrissy or Mr. Greenwich?
Ladies first.
Ladies first, yes.
Thank you so much for having me on. I think, is it Dr. Bub now?
It is Dr. Bub, correct.
Dr. Bub, thank you so much.
Yes.
And congratulations on your recent graduation there.
Thank you.
It's a bit unfortunate. I mean, I love Carnival and I'm part of Carnival from a number of ways. I'm a participant as well as a promoter. I do events and I also support loads of other companies that I work for through my marketing agency in doing events and other activities for Carnival. And even outside of that, I'm an entertainer. So I see the impact of the pandemic on, you know, tourism, Carnival, entertainment. And it is really unfortunate that Carnival Monday and Tuesday would be canceled this year, but not just canceled, but also removed. Well, at least there's a motion to remove them as public holidays. And, you know, it sucks because there's a lot of people who are still suffering in a sense, who have not earned an income. There are a lot of people who directly rely on carnivals. When we talk just our artists alone and some of our musicians, they entertain. That's what they do. If there aren't any events, they aren't getting an opportunity to feed their families. So saying that this isn't happening all together without some sort of plan B, where we can still generate some sort of economic activity, particularly for those who have not really had a chance in quite a long while. So in general, I'm a little saddened by the fact, but I do understand the larger public health significance of that decision.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Greenwich, what say you? I mean, the Prime Minister did, however, make a point at his last press conference that he wants to see cultural-like activities in lieu of Carnival. So, Mr. Greenwich, first I want to react to the decision by the government to go to Parliament to get that proclamation of the cancellation of Carnival. And secondly, what do you think we can do in its place for this year?
Okay, as I said, thanks again for having me on the program. And I'm speaking to you in a capacity as as a promoter and as the PRO for the Grenada Promoters Association. Right. So, with regards to the decision of the cancellation of Carnival, as Chrissy just said, this is very unfortunate, and this happened last year, and we saw the backlash from that. It seems as though the powers that be always seem to focus on public health and never the mental health and even the livelihoods of the persons that rely on this industry. Right? Now, just to take a step back, in 2020, when there was a total lockdown, there have been stimuluses going left and right from different aspects of society. Now, the entertainment industry has been, I have to say, disregarded. They have given no support whatsoever, whether it's financial or otherwise. And just to give you a little backdrop, we've been able to meet with the Prime Minister, right, and able to discuss what we thought was the best way forward. And we put something in writing, which we thought was a workable plan. And we can't avoid the fact that, okay, vaccine is part of the equation, right? And to this date, all the pronouncements and the announcements that are being made is like news to us coming from the association. I'm hearing of vaccinated events, this type of no official carnival, and even this written proposal. This has been submitted approximately 3 to 4 months ago, and we have not had any formal response from the powers that be, which That's very
Okay,
disrespectful.
right. Mhm. Now, so you're saying that they consulted with you, but there was no
Yes,
follow-up.
yes.
But and you're saying that on the question, so you mentioned that you submitted proposals, and I'm going to bring back Chrissy here. What kind of proposal did you submit? I mean, what were you envisioning to have? I mean, the borders are now open, by the way, so people are traveling in Grenada in droves. A lot of the flights are full. Coming
Yeah.
home from New York. Very few Caribbean airlines will be resuming normal service. I believe Liat has already resumed service. Of course, people still have to go through the quarantine process, but if you're vaccinated, at least they reduce that quarantine period. So, can you talk to us about just the proposal that you submitted that you felt would have met the government halfway, if you will?
Okay, that's me, right? Right.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So with regards to the proposal, right, one of the things that we recognize is that as a promoters association, although we advocating for all promoters, we have members that may not everybody that's on board with blanket vaccination. So our approach was to kind of think out of the box and come up with ways in which that we could still have entertainment while we still advance the vaccination process, because I want to make it absolutely clear. The Grenada Promoters Association is no way opposed to vaccination, but there might be members that may have their own personal choice that you cannot force upon anybody, right? Now, having said that, we also advocate that, um, sorry about the background noise, the ambulance is passing. Yeah, yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead,
We
please.
also advocate that we know that COVID-19 is not going to be the last pandemic. So we saw it as an opportunity to put a framework together so that whatever happens, the entertainment industry would not yet again become the scapegoat and its members be suffering. It's a year and change, and people like us have not had a salary, and it just speaks to the level of concern, because all we've been getting is lip service, right? I don't know really if you want me to go through the items on which we propose, right? But it was just that we were looking at entertainment in a different way, in that we want to embrace. Let's give you a little snapshot, right? The average person, whether we realize it or not, when we go out in groups, right? I'm sure you can testify to that. When you go out to party, you might have your girlfriends, your boyfriend, and you go out in circles. So we were saying, why not embrace this and encourage people that when they come out to party, or when they come out to go to an event, they come in their groups, right? So we were if you hear me being a bit slurred, it's because I'm
It's a
getting a feedback,
connection.
and yeah, and it's
Yeah.
kind of slower.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of messing me up there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we thought it was a good way to embrace the way we party, anyways. But we were going to do it in a safe way, taking all the protocols into consideration, and we were going to, and we don't even want to use that because that became a bit of a bad word. Using well, maybe pods. Let me say pods, right? Because it was. I don't want to use any other word, because other people had a problem with using
Right.
these. Yeah. So we
Terminologies.
wanted to
Yeah.
create these areas that people could come out and party in their groups, and because the protocol said that you can socialize in your social groups, we would have been adhering to the premise of the whole way the COVID committee was advising us to move forward, right? In addition to all a lot of other additional protocols and layout, we did schematics showing how it could work and where it is. And we never got any formal feedback. So when we hearing all these things happening and the government is working with promoters, I don't know if the government have singled out particular promoters that they reached out to, or promoters reach out to them. But from the association standpoint, we have had no communication, no formal communication. And I want to make it absolutely clear, this is not about any promoter getting an opportunity, because it's more about the protocol and the ways we see things should be done. Because it's actually disrespectful. You ask for association and then you just disregard us. After we had a meeting, us walking away from this meeting thinking everything is going to be okay, you know? Because we never thought that they would agree with every single thing. But the impression we got was going to go through a process of elimination, what they agreed upon, what they had disagreed, and it was going to go to cabinet, and a conclusion would have come as a result of this. Nothing so happened, and we still waiting.
Okay. All right. Let me see if I can bring back Brother Kurt here. Brother Kurt, can you hear us now? It looks like your connection is a bit more stable.
Yes, I clearly now.
Very well, Kurt Allen. Welcome to the Bob Report again. The last time we had you here, it was under some very sad circumstances, the passing of Mother Singing Sandra. But we're bringing you back here. We're having this conversation about, well, the cancellation of Carnival in Grenada, but not only in Grenada, in Trinidad as well. And Jose Ernesto and Chrislyn and Brother Eddie from Grenada, I want you to ruminate on this. Jose Ernesto is saying, last year Trinidad had a virtual carnival show and it was magnificent. Why can't the Calypsonians and soca artists come together and do the same as Trinidad in Grenada? But brother Kurt, first off the bat, we want to talk about your vaccine calypsos that you composed recently. What would have motivated that? Did Dr. Rowley's famous "Don't Jackass the Thing" sort of motivate you to write that song, or was that in the works before that?
No, not at all. It wasn't motivated by that factor at all. As a matter of fact, for the entire year, I've been composing many songs, having plans to go to the studio, but just not getting there.
Yeah.
When the idea for this came, it's not something that I even really wanted to pursue, because I already had other songs in train. But as a Calypsonian, and what, to me at least, my understanding of what is a Calypsonian, it's similar to a lawyer. A lawyer represents the view of his client. It doesn't mean that he believes his client is innocent or guilty, but he represents the view of the client to the judge, to the magistrate. The Calypsonians represent the views of the people to the national public. And I think that is the inspiration for the song. We've been hearing a lot about the pandemic and the coronavirus, but in this particular issue, I was hearing a lot more about it from people who were not necessarily commenting on anything before. I assume that it was also a fear factor in terms of having something injected into your system. Some people who weren't saying anything before became very vocal about it. And the vaccination issue, it's not just an issue of being vaccinated. A lot of people, their fear and concern, why they do not trust the process, has to do with a lot of things they would have learned through history. History is our greatest teacher. And when you look at third world nations and what we have been systematically put through in terms of as a people, it's not something that you willingly will put your hands up and say you want to be first in line. So I think that people's concerns were more of a trusting nature. There are many factors that the song addressed in terms of the Bill Gates and the Pfizer's and the at least the belief that the global population needs to be decreased, and a lot of different conspiracy theories. Yes, there'll be the conspiracy theorists. You can't get away from that. I am neither a conspiracy theorist, neither am I a scientist. I'm not a theologist. I do not perform any miracles. I'm just a Calypsonian. So my duty as a Calypsonian is to observe and listen to what the people are saying and to bring it to the national community, because that's why we represent the voice of the people. Sometimes the people as individuals, they don't have the power or the means to get themselves on radio or on television to make a statement. Some of them even fear. They say things behind closed doors. They say things to their own families. As a Calypsonian, or Calypsonians in generally, people see us and say, hey, Alan Bajan, you're not singing about this year. What about this? Why you don't sing about this year? And that is how I get my inspiration, from actually hearing what the people wants me to sing.
You know, Calypsonians historically and traditionally have always represented the voice of the voiceless, and you articulate issues in a manner that really resonates with the general population. But I want to segue into the conversation that we have in here, Brother Allen, and that has to do with, well, what happens in the absence of carnival, and we want to hear from your experience in Trinidad and Tobago. This year you did not have a carnival, and so I know that Trinidad had several virtual events in the build up to obviously that carnival, right? That carnival period. So from the Calypso fraternity perspective, what were you able to do to again stay current and stay relevant during that period?
As everyone knows, it's a global impact, so that the entertainment industry in general is being affected. And what you just described took place in Trinidad, I can guarantee it took place basically in the other Caribbean islands and all over the world where the entertainment is concerned. Now, in the entertainment industry, we have a lot of different types of entertainers. The ones who rely on who perform on cruise ships, the ones who do the normal casino, pubs, the karaoke, the ones who perform at weddings. You have the gospel artists who perform at the church. So I can only speak of what I call the carnival industry artists as it relates to calypso, soca, and the other attributes. What I saw it as, and still see it as, is a more vibrational disturbance more than anything else. Because when you understand the history and what carnival really means and it represents. So historically, carnival is a fertility ritual, a ritual to a god by the name of Baal. Hence the word bacchanal and all these things is attributed. It's a fertility ritual. And any fertility ritual or any ritual, when you think fertility, you think about new birth being spawned. New birth in terms of creatives, the musicians, the artists, the hairdressers, all the people who are involved in the industry itself. And for the past year, we weren't able to achieve that new birth. And as you know, anything that vibrates, because calypso, music, carnival, it's a vibration, as we say, it's a vibration. And anything that vibrates, when you look at quantum physics, it can be measured and it can be assigned a number, what we call algorithm. So that's why I see it as a disturbance, that algorithm is being disturbed so that you get a shift in it. However, there's a bright side. There's a very bright side. When we look at World War II, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago, where there were 2 US military bases that moved from 268. That was a time of the same fear. People were in the same state of fear. As a matter of fact, we had to line up to get rations. We weren't even knowing what's happening in other parts of the world because we had no YouTube, no video cameras and all those things. So that the fear factor was heightened and the conditions were similar to now. However, during that period, calypso was able to blossom and bloom. Why is that? Why was calypso and the local music scene was able to blossom and bloom during a period of war that, as we saw, generations after still continues to be on the scene? That's because the artists of the time or the creatives of the time were able to be in tune with the people. This is an opportunity for the creative sector to be creative, and to get to find out what the people really need and what the people really want to be happy. After all is said and done, we have an opportunity here now to make people happy as artists. Can we do that by the same conversations of wine, jump, chuck? No, the conversation is what has to change in this time, in this particular pandemic. And if the conversation changes and the creative industry really get creative, I think that we can really come out of this smiling and much stronger than we were before. It's a time for us to appreciate who we are, to appreciate our musicians, our artisans, to appreciate our fashion designers, our mask makers. This is the time. And if we don't seize this opportunity now, then all fall down.
And Chrissy, I want you to react to. I saw you were really nodding there and listening to the thoughts of Brother Allen. I want you to react to some of the things he said.
I'm in total agreement. And to be honest, I think we dropped the ball in this last year in Grenada, in the sense that we had a year to, one, put a lot of development into not just carnival and making it better for when we so-called go back to normal, but also to develop the talents and skill sets of the cultural practitioners. It's also a great opportunity to educate the population on the importance of culture, the importance of carnival, and the various aspects of carnival. So to me, we've kind of dropped the ball and wasted an entire year. And now we're just scrambling to say, okay, shoot, it's carnival time again. Maybe we should do a little something. But it's such a great opportunity we have, as you say, to connect more with our creative sides and maybe even develop the future talents. So yeah, that's why I was like, preach.
Yes, can you hear me? You guys can hear me, yes?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, very well. Just making sure. I had some audio issues there. But yes, so Trinidad and Tobago, they had a lot of these virtual events. Chrissy, I know that you had a series. Was it Upstage, I believe is the name of it? I really enjoyed that series that you put on. Really, really great. But I mean, notwithstanding the Prime Minister's pronouncement, what are you hearing? What are you hearing from the other stakeholders? I'm going to bring in our next guest here as well, Mr. Greenwich. What are you hearing from the other stakeholders in Grenada as to what? And you said you dropped the ball, but what is going to be happening in this period leading up to what would be? And I think yes, you might cancel the date as a holiday, but it is a period of carnival. It still would be known as carnival, as far as I'm concerned. So who wants to start? Mr. Greenwich, you want to go first?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. Well, I wanted to also endorse what Chrissy and Salen was saying. But having said all that, a lot of these investments, a lot of these initiatives come with serious investment, right? So as much as we're talking about harnessing the young talent and so, we have so much technology that we could have put some funding into. 2021, the carnival should have been, when we're talking virtual carnival, we shouldn't be still having the same conversation as though we in 2020, right? Mm-hmm. And that goes even further in carnival. It goes to education. It goes to a lot of things. They have dropped the ball in the areas that they choose to invest. I know it just seemed to be these plaster and glue measures just to get us by, right? But in terms of what I've been hearing, all I've been hearing in the areas is that promoters are going to be doing vaccinated events. That is the murmurings. The only issues I have with that is that the Grenadian market, and I can speak to Grenada, it is so small, and so the people that go out and partake in entertainment represents what I would say. Let's say on a good year, when we have an influx of people, 10,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. No, we know for sure that's not going to happen, because at the end of the day, there's still restriction for certain countries, Caribbean islands, whatever the case may be, and it's not wise to do so in this dispensation. So I would say we all going after a small entertainment crowd, and it means that in order for that to be profitable, you have to raise your prices, because there are certain overheads that you just can't get away from, right? Like you do an event, stage, song, lighting, and in the case of calypso shows, they would have all these things that comes with putting on a professional looking show or professional event, right? So in itself, I don't think as it stands now, it is not sustainable to just do vaccinated events because the average man, you would have basically tell more than half of the population that they can attend these events, right? Not just because they're not vaccinated, but some of them they just can't afford it.
Chrissy, I'll bring you back here.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So the other thing, the other thing. So what is next for promoters? What are you guys going to be doing? You said you haven't heard from the powers that be.
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing in the next coming weeks, the next few weeks?
Well,
Well,
there
the most we
definitely
can.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Mr.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Chrissy. Go ahead, Chrissy. You go
Okay.
ahead, please, Chrissy.
There's definitely conflicting messages when it comes to what the protocols are for doing events. So that leaves certain stakeholders, certain promoters kind of in limbo. You're not sure if to go ahead and do an event and then it's vaccinated only. Eddie has spoken about how that in some cases doesn't make sense in terms of dollars and cents. And then you have some places already doing events without that stipulation. So it puts you in a state of you're not sure. And I could use that example of Beach Bum, for instance. The last time I did Beach Bum on Carnival Sunday in 2019, we had approximately, let's say, 1,000 people there. Now, in order for us to do an event now, I was having preliminary discussions. We're talking having about 450 people, and those 450 people would have to be all vaccinated people. So you're dealing with a few things. When I did it at 1,000, we needed 500 to at least start to break even on some of the costs of putting on
Yep.
the event, right? Because there's a lot that comes into putting on the event. And then you're also dealing with a population that's, what are we at, 20% or so vaccinated, I think, of the adult
I don't even think
population,
you're right. Yeah, yeah,
right?
it's about
So
that. Mhm.
so then you're also talking about taking now a percentage of that, who is my target market for Beach Bum, within there. Do you see what I'm saying? And to be honest, I quite like what Florida is doing, where they're saying, if you ask someone if they're vaccinated in order to come into an event or to do something, they're charging the person asking 5,000 US dollars per violation, because at the end of the day, it's a violation of rights. You should not be denying somebody entry into something if they're, that's a whole other conversation. And I said, as of the 1st of July, I'm not answering anything related to vaccinations, but I just had to bring that into play because it's something that I'm not sure I want to put on to my patrons. I don't want to say to my patrons, you have to do this or you have not to do this in order to attend my event. So it puts us in a very ticklish place.
Yep. Yes.
Yep, and so, lady and gentlemen, I want to, we're almost out of time here, but I want to give you all the opportunity to leave some final thoughts with us about this period for culture and carnival and just what the future would look like. I mean, even looking beyond carnival, right? What would that look like? And so, I want to start with you, brother Kurt. What sage advice would you want to leave with us today, with our audience? Kurt, you're on? You need to unmute the mic there, Kurt. I don't think Kurt can hear me.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second here. Yeah, Kurt, can you hear me? I don't think Kurt can hear us. But Chrissy, please proceed.
Well, I think one thing for us to really remember here is that Carnival is not just whining and jab in the streets. It means something. It's a celebration of emancipation, a celebration of freedom. Like we were talking about the library earlier, it's our ancestors did this as a way to celebrate their freedom because they were in hundreds of years of not being free. And outside of that cultural significance of Carnival, there's also a fringe benefit to Carnival. So not just the people who like Carnival take part in Carnival, but you have a lot of the church groups. They go on camps. You know, you have people actually getting days off from work. As an essential worker last year, I didn't get a holiday simply because those 2 days were removed. So you have people who have been working, and actually looking forward to a long weekend. So, and you know, as Mr. Allen was talking about vibrations, we know what's going to happen come Carnival Monday and Tuesday, whether it's a public holiday or not, because we are in a state in the country where people are feeling, you can feel the heat. You see it in terms of the crime rate, right? There's certain things going up. There's certain things happening more than usual in Grenada, and people need some sort of outlet, some sort of release, some sort of, you know, mental care. And a Carnival for a lot of people is that expression. So, you know, I just wanted to say that Carnival is just so important, not just from a cultural sense, but holistic in terms of the entire society. And I really wish we can have some form of expression this year. And I'm trying to at least do one episode of Upstage. Hopefully it works out.
That would be great. I mean, and you know, if history is a guide based on last year's events, I mean, Grenadian jabs came out regardless of what the protocols were. Grenadians and their jab, you don't want to toy with that. Brother Eddie, and then we'll get to Brother Allen for a close. Brother Greenwich, any final thoughts from you, sir? Yes.
Yes. Well, what I would like to say, I would like to make a clarion call to the authorities and ask them to revisit their approach. I know when it comes to the arena of promoters, it requires planning, it requires time, and it may be a bit late to make a pronouncement that okay, promoters could do events here there. But what I would like to see is that we embrace that carnival spirit in whichever way persons would like to celebrate it. As Chrissy was saying, some people go to the beach. Some people may just want to spend some quality time with the family, because I don't see the point in taking away the holiday, right? And in addition to that, we at the Promoters Association, we often walk away with a feeling that we are not a priority. And I don't know, it might be a bit much to say so, but I get the feeling is that there's no level of urgency on the decision makers. Maybe because they get their salaries every month, they're not affected by this, and at the end of the day, their lifestyle have not changed, right? But that's what public service is about. You're supposed to be serving the public, and we represent a part of this public, and we represent a large sector, right? I cannot speak enough how many people and how much businesses that benefit from carnival and entertainment. The list will be too long. So as a result, the decisions that you make has caused a domino effect and caused a lot of hardship on people in this sector. And I really, really would like to urge persons to reach out to us. Stop disregarding us. Stop making us feel as though we don't matter, right? Because we have families to feed too. And at the end of the day, we have books to buy just like everybody else. School is in session just now. And at the end of the day, we just want to live. All we care about is lives and livelihood. Just like you able to feed your family, you want to feed ours, right? So I'm begging, please reach out to us and let us get the communication going. As I said, this is not about any specific promoter, and I would not advocate that the government is reaching out to specific promoters. Deal with the association, right? because everybody has seats, right? You cannot make that determination who should get the opportunity to do an event or who shouldn't. All of us have been a year and change in this kind of a hardship. So that's what I would like to say, right?
All right.
Really.
All right, Mr. Greenwich, thank you so much. And brother Kurt, we want to end with you today. Yes, we
Well,
can hear you. Go ahead.
just add to what was being said. Estimating the spirit or the power of carnival is something that no one should really do, because being a fertility ritual, what you get is the drunkenness, the whining, the nakedness, and all these things. But the other side to it now is, picture if your moko jumbies or your jab jab don't have that opportunity to release in that format. They're going to release it. There'll be another type of moko jumbi and jab jab and blue devils that running around with guns and knives and distressing people in the society. So carnival in itself is a release, and through that release, it keeps the peace for the rest of the year. And it will be a mistake by anybody or any entity, government or institution, to believe that they could take away or deny the people that release. Whether it's carnival or not, we're talking about the release that carnival represents. So I just wanted to say that, to tell the creative industry that hold tight, we will get through this once we remain true to who we are as creatives. And I would like to send a special thanks to the man himself, Ajamu, for King Ajamu, the king man as I call him, for producing the track Vaccine or Not. He's the producer, the arranger of the song, and I just want to say thanks for that, because it's a collective effort. Again, we need each other in the region. The artists need to foster more cooperation with each other. I also want to shout out the Caribbean Calypso community for a new initiative that will be launching on August the 1st, where it's a Calypso League, where Calypsonians in the region will be involved in a team of Calypso and competing against each other. First, it will be virtual, but then we'll be taking it live to the various countries. I'm a team leader, leading a nice bunch. I know Scholar is a team leader, Socrates is leading a team, Roger Hines out of Ghana is leading a team, and all teams comprised of Calypsonians and soca artists from within the region. So we're looking forward. Even in the pandemic, this is something that we are doing as a response to establish relationships between artists from the different islands, and cultural relationships, and to keep Calypso moving on the international front.
All right, Brother Kurt, you always have a platform here on the Bob Report. We welcome you anytime, and it was certainly a pleasure to have you here. We expect to see more of you, and whenever I visit Trinidad and Tobago again, now that the borders are open, I hope to visit at some point.
Yeah, just come.
Yes,
Just come through.
I come in and look for you in some of the tents. All right, Brother Alan, Kristen Lashington, and Eddie Greenwich from Grenada. Thank you all so much. And earlier, Susan Maines as well, and Callistra Faria, and the National Disaster Coordinator in Grenada. Thank you, panel, for a very important program today. As a reminder, Susan Maines, she is encouraging you all to send your stories with respect to the public library and memories of the public library. I will be putting that up on the Bub Reports page so that we have a reminder of that during the next week. On behalf of my producers, I want to thank you again for tuning in for another week of the Bub Report, and we will see you next week for another episode. Have a great week, be safe, and enjoy. Bye-bye.